You sit in a quiet room, yet the noise inside your head is louder than any external sound. The world sees a person who is simply careful, but you know the weight of every single thought. They tell you to just relax, as if your mind has a simple off switch you haven't found. Society praises the quick thinkers, but they often ignore the depth required to see every possible hidden outcome. You are not just thinking, you are navigating a complex labyrinth that most people do not even perceive. While others move forward with blind confidence, you are measuring the gravity of every word and every look. It is a strange contradiction to be so deeply aware of life while feeling paralyzed by that awareness. Perhaps your overthinking isn't a flaw, but a sophisticated response to a world that feels increasingly unpredictable. You find yourself replaying a conversation from 3 hours ago, dissecting the tone of a single brief sentence. Your mind acts like a high-definition camera, capturing every subtle shift in the body language of those around. You often feel like an outsider looking in, analyzing the social scripts that everyone else seems to follow. There is a quiet exhaustion that comes from being your own harshest critic and your most observant witness. You plan for every scenario, hoping that by anticipating the storm, you might finally find a moment's peace. Yet, even in the silence of the night, your brain is busy weaving threads of what-if into blankets. You care deeply about the impact of your actions, often prioritizing the comfort of others over your own. This hyper-awareness makes you incredibly empathetic, but it also leaves you feeling emotionally drained at the day's end. The shift happens slowly, a quiet realization that your mental energy was being consumed by things you couldn't control. You noticed that while your friends were laughing, you were busy calculating the hidden meaning behind their jokes. One day, the fatigue of constant analysis became heavier than the fear of making a wrong or imperfect choice. You realized that your quest for absolute certainty was actually a cage you had built for your own spirit. The moments of pure presence became rarer, replaced by a constant internal monologue that never seemed to take breaks. You saw others moving through life with a lightness that felt foreign, making you wonder when you lost yours. It wasn't a sudden explosion, but a soft, persistent ache that told you your mind was simply working too hard. This awareness was the first step toward understanding that your overthinking was actually a shield for your heart. Psychologists often describe this experience as rumination, a mental loop where the mind revisits the same painful thoughts. This process is not just random activity, but a sophisticated attempt by your brain to solve an emotional puzzle. When you feel a lack of control, your mind creates a sense of agency by overanalyzing every detail. This cognitive dissonance occurs when your need for safety clashes with the inherent unpredictability of the human experience. Attachment theory suggests that your constant scanning of others might be a deeply rooted quest for emotional security. You are essentially trying to predict the future to avoid the stings of rejection or perceived social failure. This high level of self-awareness is a double-edged sword that provides great insight but also causes immense pressure. Your brain's executive functions are working overtime, trying to filter a sea of information that never truly ends. By dissecting every interaction, you are attempting to create a map for a territory that is constantly shifting. It is a form of intellectualizing your emotions, using logic to protect yourself from the raw vulnerability of feeling. Understanding these patterns is not about fixing a broken mind, but about witnessing a highly protective internal system. You are learning that your thoughts are just data points, not necessarily the absolute truth of your reality. This pattern often begins in a home where the emotional climate was unpredictable or required constant, careful navigation. Perhaps you were the child who had to sense a parent's mood before deciding it was safe. You learned early that being observant was a survival skill, a way to avoid conflict or gain approval. If your environment lacked a steady sense of calm, your mind stepped in to provide its own structure. You became a master of reading between the lines because the lines themselves were often blurred or shifting. This early conditioning taught you that being careful was the only way to ensure that you stayed. Overthinking became a loyal companion, a guardian that promised to keep you from ever being caught off guard. You might have felt responsible for the emotions of those around you, carrying a weight meant for adults. As you grew, this protective habit followed you into adulthood, manifesting as a need to perfectly curate yourself. It is a heavy legacy to carry, this belief that your safety depends on your ability to anticipate. Yet, acknowledging this origin is not about blame, but about offering compassion to the child you once. You are realizing that your hypervigilance was once a gift that helped you navigate a difficult, complex world. You crave deep and honest connection, yet you often find yourself pulling back to protect your inner peace. There is a constant battle between wanting to be fully seen and the fear of being misunderstood. You value transparency in others, but you hesitate to reveal your own thoughts until they are perfectly polished. It feels like living in two worlds at once, the quiet reality and the loud, analytical simulation. You are incredibly kind to the mistakes of others, yet you show no such mercy to your own. You want to be spontaneous and free, but your mind demands a detailed itinerary for every emotional journey. This conflict creates a sense of being frozen, standing at a crossroads while the world moves quickly. You seek the truth in every situation, yet you worry that the truth might be too much. There is a part of you that wants to scream, while another part insists on maintaining total. You are a person of profound depth who often feels trapped by the very layers that define. It is a quiet war fought in the silence of your own mind, day after day without rest. You are learning to bridge the gap between your need for safety and your desire for true raw. Research into the human brain reveals that overthinking often involves an overactive prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for complex planning. Studies in cognitive psychology suggest that individuals who analyze deeply often possess a significantly higher capacity for empathy and social intuition. The amygdala hijack is a term used by experts to describe when your brain's fear center overrides your logical processing. When you overthink, your brain is actually trying to protect you by simulating every possible negative outcome before it happens. Interesting findings in behavioral science show that those who reflect more tend to make more ethical and considered life choices. Experts in emotional intelligence note that your ability to see multiple perspectives is a hallmark of a highly sophisticated mind. Data suggests that intellectualizing is a common coping mechanism for those who experienced high-pressure environments during their formative years. While society labels this as anxiety, some researchers view it as an evolutionary trait designed for high-level problem-solving. The phenomenon of choice paralysis is actually a sign that you value the consequences of your actions very deeply. Neuroscience indicates that your brain creates stronger neural pathways for reflection, making you naturally more observant than the average person. By understanding the biological roots of your thoughts, you can begin to see your mind as a powerful, sensitive instrument. It is a biological reality that your brain is simply wired to notice the things that most people miss. This tendency to overanalyze is not a broken gear in your head, but a sign of a profound intelligence. Your ability to see the world in high definition means you possess a rare and valuable depth of character. Where others see a simple conversation, you see the subtext, the history, and the emotional weight behind the words. This makes you a natural strategist, a person who can navigate the complexities of life with incredible, quiet precision. Your overthinking is actually a form of deep caring, a refusal to move through the world with a cold indifference. You are a person who values integrity and truth, refusing to accept the surface-level explanations that satisfy so many others. This mental noise is the byproduct of a heart that is trying to be as responsible and kind as possible. When you reframe your thoughts as a search for meaning, the burden starts to feel like a unique and powerful gift. You are not lost in your head. You are exploring the vast landscape of what it means to be human. Your sensitivity is your greatest strength, allowing you to connect with the world on a level few ever reach. There is a profound difference between the chaos of overthinking and the stillness of a truly contemplative, peaceful soul. Solitude is not the same as loneliness. It is the space where your mind finally feels safe enough to rest. You are learning that silence is not a void to be filled, but a sanctuary for your tired, busy heart. Distance is not always an act of avoidance. Sometimes it is the only way to gain the clarity you need. Choosing to step back is an act of self-preservation, a way to honor the energy you give so freely. You are discovering that you can be observant without being hypervigilant, watching the world without feeling responsible for it. True independence is realizing that you do not have to solve every problem or predict every storm to be safe. Your journey is one of moving from the prison of what if into the expansive beauty of what is right now. It is important to remember that your mind is only trying to keep you safe in a world that often feels chaotic. You are not too much, and your need to process deeply is a natural extension of your incredibly perceptive and caring heart. Many others walk this same mental path, feeling the same exhaustion from a brain that simply refuses to ever look away. Give yourself the grace to be imperfect, knowing that your value is not defined by how many problems you can successfully predict. As you grow, you will find that the volume of your thoughts begins to soften into a much more manageable, rhythmic hum. The strength you used to survive the past is now the very foundation of the wisdom you will carry into your future. You are moving toward a version of yourself that can observe the storm without feeling the need to control the wind. This journey of self-awareness is the highest form of personal evolution, leading you to a place of true, lasting internal peace. Do you find that your overthinking is a source of hidden strength, or does it still feel like a heavy burden to carry? Please share your story in the comments below, so we can all learn from the unique depth of your own personal experience.